It's June 2010, and two AVI volunteers have arrived in Tarawa to work at the local school and Centre for Children with Special Needs.
AVI stands for Australian Volunteer International. It's a non-profit organisation that operates out of Australia. So this is our 60th year. So we've been around for 60 years, which is really a great accomplishment when you think of it. I mean, we've been sending volunteers overseas to different countries for such a long time.
So you guys are worried about your English?
Over the past 29 years, AVI has placed 190 volunteers in Kiribati. In general, these placements are aligned with the Government of Kiribati's 4-year plan and the development partnership with Australia.
Volunteering's a great way to travel and to really immerse yourself in another culture, another society.
I guess just for the adventure of going somewhere different, and I suppose also being able to use my skills where they're probably most needed. But yeah, a big part of it is just the life experience as well.
Most volunteers have shown a real willingness to adapt, but it is inevitable that any newcomer will face a period of change and adjustment.
Even some of the facial gestures that Kiribati people use, like raising their eyebrows to say yes, took me a long time to work out what that meant.
To be honest, we're a bit overwhelmed initially. It's so different here to what it is in Australia.
You know, you can't just go down to your local supermarket and get the chicken breast and the T-bone steak.
You're a long way from home, and so there are people you miss, of course, but generally I don't think we look at it as an ordeal in any sense. I'm the People's Lawyer at the Office of the People's Lawyer. The Office of the People's Lawyer is an incredibly busy office. Per capita, Kiribati is a very litigious society. There are a few lawyers only. Being a lawyer back home, you tend to be very specialised, whereas lawyers here are generalists in the true sense of the word. They're solicitors in the office, they're barristers doing all of their own appearances in the Magistrates' Court, the High Court, the Court of Appeal. So the breadth of legal knowledge required here is much broader than the breadth of legal knowledge required to be a specialised practitioner at home. But the greatest difficulty that is posed by an English legal system operating in a non-English speaking country is that a majority of the practitioners speak English as their second language. So for them, they stand up in court and make complex legal submissions on complex legal principles in their second language. It's an incredibly difficult task, and I don't doubt that from time to time they feel like they haven't been able to express themselves as well as they could have if they were speaking in their first language. Professionally, it's a good opportunity to get that satisfaction that comes from knowing that you're making some sort of contribution. Because I think as a volunteer you tend to get entrusted with responsibilities that fast track your learning, and you're forced to learn new skills as well as develop existing ones.
Dan's partner Phoebe is a water and sanitation engineer working with the local Ministry of Works.
So the water unit that I work for, our mandate is to manage the national water resource. Basically, there's a lot of pressure. The water system is very leaky, there's a lot of losses, and with a very booming population in South Tarawa, there's not nearly enough water for the population.
Phoebe's work with ministry staff involves collecting important data on the state of the waterlands under all our islands. This precious storage resource is very vulnerable to upward pressure from high tides and lengthy periods of drought. At regular intervals, Phoebe's colleagues from Works come to measure the thickness of the waterlands in Beso, the most heavily populated island. Each of these tubes goes down a different length and enables the staff to work out how thick the waterlands is.
So our mandate is really to try and manage that water resource so it's protected, it's not overdrawn, becomes saline, and just to keep an eye on how things are going.
Economic development is a key issue for our tiny country, And across the water in nearby North Tarawa, Mike Savin's boat building enterprise has begun to set new benchmarks.
I like to see that what we are developing is a new industry in Kiribati, an industry building high quality vessels, improving the skills of people who have never had the opportunity to gain skills. We have now exported 5 high quality pleasure craft to the Australian market.
Mike himself is a former volunteer who fell under the spell of Kiribati.
And to maintain a presence in the market in Australia and maintain any sort of continuality of export orders is to continually improve the skills of our staff.
Cabinet maker Andrew Clark has had some 45 years experience in the UK and Australia.
Had my own business for most of my working life and I desperately needed a change. I'm a practical person and I wanted to get my hands dirty. So this seemed like a way of actually doing it.
Andrew is possibly one of the best trainers we've ever had. Andrew takes the young apprentices under his wing and takes them through a progressively learning different tools, the aspects of the work we're doing, and he has a real art in being able to pass on training skills quite well. Rocky?
They really are great guys to work with, and they will have a means in their own right of earning an income and generating dollars for this country. But also, if they decide to leave this country, they will be employable by an employer elsewhere.
In more recent years, other volunteer organisations have been working in Kiribati. Since 2008, Australian Youth Ambassadors for Development has placed 12 volunteers. Nicole works as a church-based volunteer, and she came with her husband Peter, who is the first volunteer from Vida.
We recently married and this was a good chance for us to get away by ourselves and do something together.
Peter brings his IT skills to the Kiribati Institute of Technology, an organisation which is very central to Australia's support in the upskilling of young Kiribati for the future.
The amount of computers that are in at KIT to run that efficiently, a current challenge that we're overcoming here by the training and providing the education so that I have a counterpart and after I leave that can be maintained.
We met Tully at the beginning of the film when she arrived in the country. And here at the School for Children with Special Needs, she's nearing the end of her 12-month ABI posting.
It was felt that perhaps children who are deaf could not learn to read and write, because if they can't hear the sounds, then how can they read it on a page? So hopefully I've been able to enable the staff to understand the importance of literacy for deaf students. So that's probably the main legacy I hope to leave behind. Deafness is often referred to as a very lonely disability. That's why I've been trying to do sign language classes. I do it for the staff, but also within the community, and also parent classes. And that's been fantastic. A really good response from families, because previously they couldn't talk to their children. The reason why I volunteered, I really liked the idea of that reciprocal relationship, of being able to share skills and knowledge, but also, I've learnt so much from people here. So I've also improved in my skills as a teacher, and so it's fulfilled what I hoped it would fulfil, this reciprocal thing. Just by being put into a situation that is unfamiliar, that is challenging, that is just so raw and real.
At her final farewell, Tully pays the staff and students an ultimate compliment. Kiribati dance can be very emotional, and Tully's counterpart for the past 12 months can do little but respond in honor of her special colleague.